Those visions a lot of times ignite people with a wish to change. And what's kind of like, for me, one of the main insights of that study is this relationship between insights and actions. So I see when we think about psychedelics, a lot of times we think about experience as something that is very passive. We lie down, we close our eyes, and we experience. But a lot of times experiences are like movement. They move the body, and a lot of times this kind of sense of maybe mission that is even ignited, or kind of like a prophet that has a vision and then wants to share the message of the vision.
This podcast discusses psychedelic assisted therapy, which involves the use of substances that are illegal in many countries. We prioritize safety and do not encourage illegal drug use. Psychedelic therapy should only be conducted in controlled legal settings under professional supervision. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before considering any form of treatment. Welcome to the New Health Club show, Leor Roseman.
Thank you.
We have done this in 21, I think the last time, when your first study came out, where Palestinians drink ayahuasca together with Israelis.
Right.
At the time, it seemed like a little, oh yeah, wow, interesting. And now it seems to be one of the most important questions, how to actually reunite these two. So what happened in the meantime? What the study you did, how did it evolve, and how do you feel about it today?
Right. So when I published in 2021, it was an ethnographic study, mostly studying the underground scene of Israelis and Palestinians, and learning from the underground scene what happens when people drink ayahuasca together. Since then, we created our own groups. These were 3 years ago. And in those groups, we created an intentional practice of Israelis and Palestinians drinking ayahuasca for the purpose of peace building, collective liberation, community building, and building enthusiasm and creativity and insights, working together towards changing reality. So it's a program that was designed with all of these collective intentions behind them, that were very powerful and successful. And not perfect. There are lots of ways we can go into that. But they informed us to the strong potential that there is in that type of work. And now we're working towards building a nonprofit called Ripples that expands this type of work and brings like long-term fellowship programs with psychedelic work, with activism, with policy making, with art, with ecosystem building, with culture building, with research, with education. So a lot of layers, not just like doing retreats, but a lot of layers of how to build a culture of peace and liberation in the land. And obviously this is, a small thing, right? It's only like few group of people, but it's embedded within a larger ecosystem of peace seekers and people who try to change reality. And it kind of tries to fuel and inspire and empower people within that ecosystem, and maybe bring new people into that as well.
Let's quickly come back to the study that came out then. So you designed it back then at Imperial College scientist. Now you're at Exeter, a lecturer, right?
Yes, a senior lecturer.
Senior lecturer. How did you design this as a scientist first? What was your science glasses that you put on to?
Right. Yeah.
To design the first one.
So my science glasses were more about studying the relational healing. So I was embedded in Imperial College. I was doing neuroscience and clinical research. I was there for many years and kind of feeling this enthusiasm, revolutionary spirit of like the psychedelic renaissance, but limited to study only inner healing or personal healing and individual healing, while I see that the world is suffering from relational wounds like dislocation, alienation, oppression, loneliness, trauma. All of these happen in the relational space. And understanding my own psychedelic experiences is something that touches a healing in the relational space or in the communal space. So my researcher kind of in me wanted to expand my research from individual healing to collective healing. And in order to do so, I asked myself, what is my collective wound? And being an Israeli living in the UK, I kind of still feel the pain of the land and connected to it very much, and kind of wanted to address these communal, relational, socio-political wounds that I carry, and kind of see what I can do to support such collective healing or collective liberation.
And so maybe you can share one or two outcomes of that study back then, because it was quite revolutionary back then. Like back then, it's not that long ago, but it seems like nobody had this kind of perspective.
Yes. Okay.
On you could call it peacemaking. We can go into this further, but what were the top takeaways you had from this study?
Yeah, so I'm from the ethnographic one, even the early one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in the early one, we saw this. We did a road trip between the river to the sea with Antoine and Natalie, and we were like interviewing many people, and very emotional. Almost every interview, I was like crying, because everybody had to share something that is very deep and meaningful for them, and also carry a lot of pain and hope and kind of yearning for change. And there's like an interview is a very emotional space. So for me, just doing those interviews ignited something in me emotionally, and with a wish also to share things and findings in an emotional way, dedicated to this interaction that I had with the interviewees. So beside all the cerebral stuff that I say now, there's a part of me that's kind of constantly pushing towards the emotional expression of emotions that I saw in those interviews. But if you look at like just the phenomenology or the experience that happened in such spaces, we notice this experience of unity, oneness, communitas, of like a dissolution of identities that exist in the space, that it brings a lot of hope and a lot of like shared universality and shared humanity, these like really beautiful experiences. But we were also concerned that such experiences can be like a bypass to political tensions and inequalities. So like then we called it the irony of harmony, using other ideas from peace research. So the irony of harmony is something that really guides me until today. So you can create harmony and unity in small groups, but if that equality doesn't exist outside of the groups, then it creates actually reduces the action. It reduces the kind of energy and forces that seek change outside of the group. So it just quiets kind of maybe the kind of tensions and the conflicts. And there's something that can actually prevent changing reality if we just experience harmony in these small groups, right? So this is kind of the irony in harmony. But then we saw that this is kind of part of the case, and we saw that we critiqued the idea of oneness. If that's the only thing, I think we critique that. But we saw a lot of other experience that motivate people for change. So some of them were this intense moment of recognition, in which when you live in an intractable conflict, you have a framework, a filter, a narrative, what's called the ethos of conflict, and you experience the other based on that ethos. So you can dehumanize Israeli, or you dehumanize Palestinians, and they become less empathetical towards Palestinian, and so on, through this framing and narrative. And in those sessions, there's kind of a relaxing of that. It allows a way deeper connection and recognition of the other, not just in a universal sense, but in the also cultural sense. So if again, I'm Israeli, listening suddenly to Arabic music in the space, it might trigger me. It might kind of ignite fears. It might I might push it away. But then there's a moment that kind of opens, and everybody feel this kind of something was said, something that was like unspoken suddenly is said and penetrates the space. And it comes with a lot of like hope and a sense of belonging and inclusion of something new. So something that is not included suddenly is included in the ritual. And there's like this strong moment of recognition and expansion towards the other. Yeah, of almost an expansion of identity.
But I mean, I was remembering one woman said, I think it was an Israeli woman, or no, Palestinian woman, after the experience, that she realized that when she heard the music, I don't know which music it was, but she felt that, wow, that we actually coming from the same culture, because we living in a similar country, like we live in the same country.
Yeah.
So
there's similarities.
And so like once the identity is let's say removed, you just refer to underlying cultural similarities.
Similarities, yes, as well. So a lot of times people speak about like the Abrahamic connection, right? We all come from Abraham, and similarities of like the things in the land. But I want to say, together with that, there's also appreciation of differences, right? So there's like one can connect to other based on differences, and sometimes a relation is exciting because of the difference and not just because of similarities, because through differences we expand and learn, and it provokes us and changes us. So there's also this like expansion of identity once there's a connection of the differences, not of the just the similarities. And this was kind of something that was a strong finding, and to see how people blocks themselves to differences, and when they connect to something different, it's actually can bring like it's like an insight, like a cognitive insight of like aha moment. There's like a recognition of something in the other person that you didn't see before, is like aha moment. So when usually through music, that somebody suddenly expresses themselves through music, and you see in that person something that was like not seen before, or in that culture something that was not seen before, there's a feeling of like elation and enthusiasm in it. The third theme that we found was these experiences of visions of collective trauma. And in a way, we kind of knew that we're going to see them, right? So people have, or becoming the other, so Israeli that suddenly becomes Palestinian, or Palestinian becomes Israeli in their visions, or people who experience the pain of the land, or the bloodshed of the land, or apocalyptic visions of the future to come, or like it's painful, or historical trauma, ancestral trauma. There's a lot of like pain and fear and anger even in those visions that are kind of war related or blood related and very, very painful. And those visions a lot of times ignite people with a wish to change. So they kind of motivate people, they activate people with a wish to change. And what I saw, and what's kind of like for me one of the main insights of that study, is this relationship between insights and actions. So I see when we think about psychedelics, a lot of times we think about experience as something that is very passive. We lie down, we close our eyes, and we experience. But a lot of times experiences are like movement. They move the body. They create like a wish to if there's like a vision with a message, they create a wish to change reality after that. And a lot of times this kind of sense of maybe mission that is even ignited, or kind of like a prophet that has a vision and then wants to share the message of the vision. So we saw those kind of relationship between insights and visions and the actions that wants to emerge in the body, or this kind of movement. Yeah, and movement here is this wish for a collective movement. A lot of people, that a community that operates with a certain direction and goal, but it's also a movement, like a physical movement in the body. Our bodies move, and there's something exciting about moving our bodies and dedication to those visions and insights and transformative events that we carry. So it's kind of something that's stuck in me to look in that in other research of how we become loyal to these transformative events in our life, and they motivate us even decades after in seek of meaning. And in this meaning seeking, we also want to spread the substance to other people or share knowledge with other people. But there's like these events that we carry and we stay loyal to them, and there's kind of a rippling effect from these events.
Before we come to your foundation, Ripple, you presented this also last time at Psychedelic Science, the topic and the study. And now kind of fast forward, nobody expected this situation that we're in now, kind of. And it seems like, we talked about this a little bit, it's no longer just, okay, there's this conflict and those two parties are kind of, they need to figure it out somehow. Now it's becoming a global question, how it affects many other governments, it affects agreements between politicians. In a what different way? Maybe do you look at this now, this basically research you will keep going, and we'll talk about it in a second, like the foundation, but it must have also changed your perspective how huge this conflict actually is.
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's kind of, it brings a feeling of urgency, and at the same time more feeling of impotency, right? So it's like
impotency.
Yeah, of like rippling in stormy water, kind of, right? It's like what do we do? It doesn't matter, kind of. It's so big, it's so beyond us that like no matter what we do, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of doubt like this is coming, and at the same time it oscillates with suddenly a burst of like, this is the time, we continue to do what we do, it's more important than ever. feeling, right? But without like too much of like naive utopian kind of micro messianic, like we're gonna solve it, like ideas, but to see this as what we can do in these times with the tools we have, with the group we have of people that is like a very intimate, powerful collective, and to contribute. And if it's not this generation, it's the next generation, and sometimes it's like just holding the flame of like something that is human when all this madness is happening, and when things will become better eventually, it's those who carried that torch are the ones who gonna light kind of the light again, right? So it's about sometimes just carrying the torch when all the madness is happening, and we don't know, when solution will come. We do our best to support those who seek change, those who seek peace, so those who seek collective liberation, and we do what we can to support them. We believe very much in what we do, but it's kind of also reality is big. If we attach too much to the idea of really kind of grandiosity, we can burn out very quickly. So there's a need to just like carve the way slowly and do what we can with what we have.
I mean, so you still would say you're a scientist in the first place, right?
Now I'm an artist, actually, but
okay.
Oh yeah, I have many hats that are conflicting with each other. Yeah,
okay.
I am still a scientist, and I'm also a teacher. And yeah.
But I mean, a lot of scientists design studies, not all of them, but I feel the majority, staying away from emotional moments or questions that they even have with themselves.
Yeah.
But in your case, this doesn't seem to be the case. So
no.
Is this something that gives you conflicts in the scientific world, that people who would actually also, see you in a university context, that it's not, let's call it like scientific enough, what you're doing?
Maybe.
And I'm just curious. I could imagine. Because
so, I read a book that really influenced me called Transpersonal Research Methods for Social Sciences. And it kind of allowed me to be more putting myself into the research question and understanding that when you do qualitative research or you do research with transpersonal methods, me as a scientist might change in the process as a person.
That's good.
So there's kind of like an involvement that allowed me a certain freedom and understanding that I do research by also reflecting on myself and my processes. Not only, but also my processes are crucial, and reflecting on them is important. I think some things I might do are already quite far out, but I have other hats that kind of keep myself in the system. So they allow me to stay in the system and continue to do tough stuff that relates to clinical research or neuroscience. And then with the peace research, I think I've gone like quite far from like numbers. Yeah. Far from numbers to qualitative research, and from qualitative research to storytelling, and from storytelling to now performance that we do, and participatory performances that relates to the experiences that we have. So I'm kind of like, yeah. But luckily, I still have my other hats that keep me in the system.
No, I mean, at one point, there were scientists in the history that at one point they left their sciencey existence, kind of, because they realized, wow, this is not the way it can work for themselves. So, but I mean, let's come to the foundation, Ripples, that you founded. Maybe you can give me a little description how what you experienced a couple of years ago turned into this nonprofit foundation.
Sure. So in the groups we did a few years ago in Spain, we brought groups to Spain with this collective intention. And each group, we had 3 groups. Each group was very profound, deep processes, a lot of healing on a personal and collective level. And a lot of things opened very strongly. And when we returned to the land, for some people, there were some challenges. And as a community, I feel when I look back at it, there was a strong momentum that we didn't really know how to work with. You can call it integration, but in the collective level and political level, it has more layers, this idea of integration. So if we ignite like this feeling of hope and liberation and connection of community but return to a reality of oppression and disconnection and separation, that can bring despair to people if those insights are not manifested in reality. And there were some people that kind of like a strong force that kind of, or a strong wave that hits a wall, right? If it doesn't ripple, then there's something, it kind of flips on itself, all of this energy. So for some people, there were challenges. And this is where we kind of decided that if we do the next project, we really need to take it as a whole year-long program that we build 6 months of trust building and a dialogue and learning different tools, and then do a retreat, and then do 6 months of integration, in which kind of the ripple effect is encouraged and resourced and supported in the integration. Because this is where a community becomes empowered when they manage to do something and impact those around them. So there's like a healthy process in being in action or creation that is dedicated to the shared experience. It's a healthy process for people. So with Ripples, this is the intention. This is it's a nonprofit that now incorporated in the US. We incorporated it a year ago, and the intention is to expand on those research projects and to create those programs that are eventually building a ecosystem. Yeah, so each program might have a cultural impact, or policymakers come out of it, or leaders in business or high tech, whatever population. But it slowly becomes an ecosystem of people who go through this project and start also collaborating with each other. So there's like the educational element, there's the research, there's the art, there's the cultural element, there's the psychedelic element. The psychedelic is not alone here. It's kind of embedded in all those other things.
And do these people have to be either Israeli or Palestinian, or is it an open
right
situation?
Now Israeli Palestinian, it can be Jewish Arab, it can be everybody that relates to the conflict eventually, but right now the conflict we're focusing is the Israeli Palestinian. But the wish is with the organization is to open to other conflicts as well. So after a few years in which we kind of practice more and feel more confident in what we have to offer and the approach we have to offer, then we open it to other situations and maybe train other people, or kind of
I mean, so you opened this, you had a couple of events already, I think in America, right? And how's the response to this from both sides?
Yeah. Skeptical, but in a good way. Everybody are suspicious right now, because everybody kind of checking, which camp are you? Which side are you? And there's a bit of suspiciousness in general. Responds in person interactions with people, and when I show the project to people, is a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of people see the potential. There's obviously healthy skepticism, kind of, and good questions. But people also see the potential, and especially people that had psychedelic experiences, they kind of intuitively see the potential, right? It doesn't have to, I don't need much to convince, because they can relate to something in them, right? And all the kind of skepticism comes more from I think from good questions, but once you connect to your experience, you sometimes feel that with people, and we know that potential. And but to build actual collaborations or fundraising is harder, because for people there are reputational risks, right? So I think a lot of people are very careful these days of how they speak about the conflict, how they support or not support, or who can criticize them, who can attack them in social media. So there's also this layer of people very enthusiastic about it, in the interpersonal level, in talks, in conferences, kind of but in the social media level, it's we're quiet, because we understand that invites kind of also different critiques that are not necessarily informed. It's just kind of how these platforms work.
But I mean, so and now you need to find, I mean, probably not that you thought about this before, but now it needs you need a whole an additional strategy, since this conflict might not disappear overnight.
Yeah.
So any ideas how you move maybe forward differently right now than, let's say, when you started, and it was a little easier maybe also?
I think what the main difference is the really some wish of really, it's kind of emphasizing something that we did before, but the art project or the project that want to come out of the ripples, they're really, really powerful. In the last year, we have created like a ritual performance. 7 of us, Israelis and Palestinians. We did it in Medicine Festival, and we did it in London and in Davos, and we were supposed to do it now in Denver, but it got canceled because people couldn't fly in. And but this performance, which is like a ritual performance, we call it, and brings other people into a process, and we kind of created performative participatory tools that like engage the audience in a quite a deep way, that it becomes quite trippy and intense and deep and
like how? Explain how does this?
Yeah.
What happens?
How we evoke those things. Yeah. It's starts with a kind of a grief process. The trajectory of the performance includes storytelling and music and kind of theater. And it starts with like a deep grief process, and I share with this soon. And then it moves into like psychedelic storytelling, and then into music and togetherness and kind of some body activation. But the grief process, what we do is in the performance, we open what we call the House of Grief. And we did it also in the workshop a few days ago here in Denver. And we opened the House of Grief, and it's kind of almost like a psychodrama performative act in which the audience takes part. And in the House of Griefs, there are two, and the audience can be Jewish and Arab or Israeli and Palestinian. So this kind of idea of bringing grief as something that is shared to everybody. And in the House of Grief, there's a section which is the living room, in which a bereaved family is sitting, and everybody come to console them. So us or people from the audience are acting as the bereaved family. And once you enter like a relation with somebody and sit in front of somebody, and you're like, they are receiving the condolences and I'm giving the condolences, something very deep can open in this relational space. It's almost acting, but it's and projecting, but a lot of like emotions are expressed, and like a lot of tears are opened in that space of grieving. And then there is a section of the house in which is the kitchen, and people can write stuff or make jokes and kind of bring memories. There's the section which is the altar for people to pray, and there's a section for movement, which is like more if people need to shake different things. So in that place, there's a lot of emotional expression, a lot of like can be quite intense, a lot of any expression, wailing, crying, being quiet.
Wailing, what's that?
Wailing, it's like this crying, like a very strong cry. And like both in Jewish and Arab tradition, there's this type of cry while grieving that is kind of very activating. It's very strong. So this kind of a way to bring the process and the heaviness in a way that people can process it, because when we live our life and constantly have to ignore all these emotions, it kind of create a field of anxiety in us in some ways, the wish to kind of push all this like thing. And it's a way to process things as a community and see the pain as something that is shared. And when you support each other in the pain that is shared, like new communal bonds are created, of like understanding how the pain is shared. And then after this, the performance picks up the energy, and kind of I do some theatrical storytelling of our psychedelic journeys, and other performers do that as well. And then we open it to music in like Hebrew, Arabic, English, Yiddish, and it becomes like more sense of solidarity and togetherness. And it's very powerful. There's part of me that's very passionate about this right now, and really want to move this performance forward. Like I'm really sad that we didn't perform last night here. There was like we prepared for that for a long time. We spent like a few weeks ago in Portugal again. Like there were like lots of weeks in which we prepared this performance and refining it, and it's a very unique offering to the world that's related to our psychedelic experiences. And right now I see this importance of creating a culture of peace. And not just like, again, emphasizing it's not just about having the psychedelic experiences, but how they can inform a ripple effect and the creation of a culture of peace in the land. Yeah, so this is like a strong emphasis. through actually doing this with this group of performers. And the other thing is that there's also a stronger wish now to work with separately Israelis and Palestinians before we enter the dialogue space.
Okay.
Because it feels safer. Yeah. So it's kind of it's too intense right now, and there's a lot of suspiciousness that people would prefer to do first medicine work internally, still with some political intentions and inquiry, but first by themselves, and then connect to Israelis and Palestinians.
In what way has your own journey with psychedelics, which I still assume it's still going on?
Yeah, all the time.
So in what way did this bring you to what you're doing now? Because it's a little bit of a transformation that you also went through, like from being, in the Imperial College team back then, like it was a very clear structure. And now you kind of venturing into a new, maybe even format coming out of this. So in what way did it bring you, maybe there was a moment in one of your journeys where you thought, okay, I need to move it maybe into a more, artistic, more emotional way.
2 years ago in psychedelic science, I did like a lecture that was performative. I always wanted to do, like, I always knew that art is important. Yeah. And I love art, and I love hanging with artists. Kind of, I do feel that scientists and artists have shared, there's something shared in us, that kind of wanting to communicate something, want to work with genres and disciplines, and kind of there's something in the characters that is similar. And 2 years ago in psychedelic science, I really wanted to present the research in a way that is enlivens it. So I did this kind of performative act on the stage with Sami Awad, and I reenacted the experiences that the psychedelic experiences that we went through together. And it was like, I was super anxious about it. I was like walking next to the river for 2 hours before the performance, like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? And really knowing that I'm doing something weird and pushing my boundaries. And then my friend Noam after that told me, oh, you're doing a lecture performance. And when he gave it a name, I was like, I'm doing a lecture performance. There's a genre that I can work with, which is still educational. It's still you lecture, but you use performative tools in order to do a lecture. And since then, I'm really, this is kind of a frame, something that I use in my talks a lot of times, that also became this artistic storytelling quality that I'm developing. And what informed me to do that is my experiences and being very close to the experiences. So their wish to again communicate the experiences in the richest way possible. And I have many rich experiences, or many rich experiences with other people, or many stories that I heard that are very rich and emotional, that I don't want to reduce into just numbers.
Yeah, no, sure. And do you feel this is more powerful? I remember this. I saw the video of a little bit from the video of that, and I felt if you look at the audience, you felt that people were really like, kind of. They were really, it was more like being in a theater, kind of. Like.
Yeah.
But we should use the time to talk about Ripple also,
okay, cool.
Because what is what kind of collaborations would help you to bring this foundation forward now? What could be who's a strong ally for you? Who could that be, or what could that be?
Right. So the allies can be, or fundraising, obviously, right? So different funders that are interested in that, we're very much, or people who can connect us to the right people. This would be very much appreciated. This is the current stage in which we are in order to start operating. Other than that, we're looking for collaborators very much in the art space that can help us create and support the culture that wants to emerge from these experiences. Because this is where we are right now. In the next group, we're going to work with quite famous artists that want to be part of this project, Israeli and Palestinian famous artists, and we want to have a support production-wise, or kind of cultural-wise, that helps. If it's musicians, so it's a producer, like if a gallery, maybe a filmmaker. These people who can really help us in the artistic space, and willing to contribute and be part of this in the artistic way. And then on the research is quite set. The research right now is quite supported. funding-wise, but also that's kind of clear. And there's the educational element, which we are developing right now. These are people that can support with platforms and educational tools and so on. And retreats. And if people want to collaborate and have a space in which they want us to do this work, and they're willing also to be part of this and enter some collaboration, we're also seeking collaborators that are medicine providers or space holders. And people who can also just, there's the psychedelic part, but there's also the culture, again, the cultural part. So, for example, in the land, we want to have our own place in which we can continue gather and meet. We want to build things in the ecosystem that are not necessarily psychedelic. And again, fundraising here can come from people who don't even care about the psychedelic scene, but they want to create, they want to see like a performance of Israelis and Palestinians and just support that. And it kind of can be clean from its psychedelic orientation in some ways, right?
So, but this could then now also be happening from, let's say, third parties that are neither Israeli nor Palestinian.
Sure.
Because it now suddenly
everybody wants to be.
Suddenly everybody is affected. Let's say.
Yeah, for sure.
So and it could be a whole new. Out of this would come a new system that people would just like to kind of support the resolution. Let's say, instead of the inflammation.
Yeah.
For example.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what about politicians?
That would be great. Yeah. So right now, the kind of project has a bit of a grassroots vibe of like we work with activists and artists, we build culture, but eventually we see it kind of climbing up, right, towards policymakers, politicians, business leaders, people who are more of the top-down politics. Now, right now we work with the bottom-up politics, but we want to reach the top-down. So I think music is essential. We're creating like art is essential because then once politicians come in, they're also embedded in a culture that we create. But yeah, politicians would be great, and politicians who want to trip together, that would be even better.
Or company owners who certainly trip together these days. But I mean, so this moves also psychedelics a little bit away from the purely healing connotation. So you have a depression, you do psychedelics, you heal, kind of. It also moves it a little bit into a little bit of a creative part again, that is sometimes once in a while neglected. So is that something you think about, like how creation or like creativity comes out of your experiences also, instead of only like working on a trauma, working on a...
I think it's always creative. Every process, every therapy is a creative process, and creative not in the sense of just artists. So let's say, and a scientist is creative. If I have a psychedelic experience, I now want to create science or inquire in research in order to understand the experience and give meaning into it. A lot of people are then, once they have transformative experience, they change their life, and there's like a flow of creation that is dedicated to the experience, even in like therapy. And I think there's this thing of like the movement that comes from the experience. I think there's a lot of actual healing in that movement. So when we take those insights and create from them a different reality around us, there's something very healing in this, because we move with the experience. We allow the flow of the experience to unfold. So I see almost every healing act as a creative act.
And I have one question, and feel free to answer that. But what is the thing that you would say non-Jews or non-Israelis don't understand right now about Jews or Israelis, what they're kind of suffering from? You don't have to add, just...
I think a lot do understand a lot, and a lot don't understand. No, I'm not sure, because I think a lot do understand. For me, I feel in general that there's a wish that the international crowd would cheer for peace and not cheer for, kind of like violent reactions. I would really want like to see protest that brings like the vision of peace into life, that really bring that into life, and liberation at the same time. And I think the international crowd is not there yet.
So it's still the inflammation.
I think so. Yeah,
Like
I
that's-
think so. But not all, not
the-
everybody. I
yeah.
don't want to like generalize
I
and
mean,
like a yeah.
Sure, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's still not. That's not the direction yet. Are
Yeah,
we going?
yeah.
And who would be your top wish candidate to collaborate with if you could make a wish? Or several. Doesn't have to be one.
It is politicians, yeah. It is kind of it's not clear which one, but it is politicians from both sides. There is like this. There is it would be amazing if politicians from both sides would like to be engaged in this.
Like an Israeli politician.
Israeli politician and
a
a Palestinian politician. That would be like a dream scenario that we eventually reach to. Yeah.
So if you know Israeli and Palestinian politicians, please
Yeah.
get in touch.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you for being
Thank
on
you.
the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the show. If you want to know more about how we fast-track psychedelic destigmatization, please head over to the New Health Club podcast on Apple or Spotify. There are many episodes talking about several substances, several treatments, several ways how psychedelics can be used these days. You also find us on Instagram under the New Health Club. But if you want to know more about our nonprofit foundation, the New Health Institute, please head over to www.thenewhealthinstitute.org. Of course, we are here on Instagram too, under the New Health Institute. Very important to me is also that you subscribe to our newsletter on Substack. Please look for the newhealthclub.substack.com. This is very important to me because we really start to build right now a media platform on Substack around psychedelics and new health topics. And of course, we would love your support on this and love if you subscribe. Love if you tell other people, your friends, your family, your community, so we can really kick off this endeavor and actually have another place, another platform next to the podcast where we can get you information and education around psychedelics.